Hey there, thanks for tuning in to the Maritime Gardening Podcast once again. Hopefully you've been enjoying the show in our first season. We're approaching the last few episodes, and but we're really happy with the way the show's been going. We hope you enjoy it. And just like every week, Greg, are you out there?
Yes.
Yes, of course you are. All right, so we're trucking along through. Summer's almost over, and so what are we going to focus on in this being episode 20?
20. Today we're going to focus on, we're not quite there yet this season, but we're only going to do a few more episodes for this season. So I thought it fit here. And this is something you can start doing right now. Mapping out next year's garden. I think it's a useful practice to have. The larger your garden is, the more necessary this becomes.
Yeah.
But yeah, giving some thought to next year's garden, and also just reflecting on doing all that while your memory of everything that happened this season is still relatively fresh.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
A little tough for a procrastinator like me, but hey.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I feel you, man.
Yeah.
I think everyone's got a bit of that.
Sure.
To varying degrees. But actually, it sort of helps procrastination because, when trying to figure out where everything should go next spring, it's an overwhelming task. So if you've given it a bit of thought, like at the end of the season, it makes that easier. It's not quite as overwhelming a task, so you're a little less likely to procrastinate.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So let's. I'll just let you get going.
Get going. Well, actually, the first thing I want to do is make a correction.
Okay.
Because we had a listener last week, and she asked me about tomato end rot or blossom end rot. And, I literally shot off an answer off the top of my head based on my personal experience. And what I didn't do, and what I should do, and what everyone should do, was I should have, before I answered, I should have weighed my experience against a number of online resources that I like to refer to on that topic.
Yeah.
Right? Because oftentimes you can have a set of experiences that they seem right because they're based on what you've observed.
Yeah.
But you don't know everything.
Right.
Right? So, and I'm going to try to stick with that on this show because, it's not much use to people if I'm not giving good advice, and I'm not the be-all and end-all on this sort of thing. So, from here on in, I'm going to really, really try not to do that again. And I generally do that. Before I respond to a question, I jot down my thoughts, and then I look up a number of resources just to make sure that there's nothing missing.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I was so confident because I've dealt with this so many times.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think the next day I said, I should really look that up. And of course, the advice that I read was it didn't contradict what I said, but it did reveal that the way I'd explained the source of the problem was an error.
Okay. Hey, nobody's perfect.
So end rot, it's not related to blight at all.
Okay.
It's not real. I mean, maybe it occurs under similar conditions, but it's not. The cause of end rot is not blight. Okay. Blight is just something that exists in the soil, and it can get into your leaves and get into your plant, and you can manage it. It doesn't necessarily lead to end rot. End rot is it can be caused by a number of things. Generally speaking, it's the result of the plant not getting the nutrients it needs for various reasons. You could have planted the tomato a bit too early. It could be a particular. You could have a variety that just does not like your yard. Even in my property, I've got some tomatoes that have it and some that don't. I've got tomatoes that same variety in some locations that don't have it, others they do. So it could be the variety, but generally speaking, it's about the plant's ability to take up calcium. It's a calcium deficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a number of reasons there can be a calcium deficiency. Your soil could be, you could be watering it too much, which would mean you sort of wash the calcium right out of your soil. You could be not watering it enough, so the plants just aren't getting anything because they're just, the soil's so dry.
Yeah.
Your soil could be too acidic. So oftentimes when a soil is too acidic, it's not necessarily the acid that hurts the plant. It's when soil's too acidic, the plant literally can't get the nutrients. It needs a certain acidity in order to get the nutrients it needs out of the soil. The nutrients are there,
Mm-hmm.
but under those conditions, the plant can't get the nutrients.
Right.
It's just not favorable to that plant.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have an acidity problem, and if that's the case, you need to put some lime on your soil.
Mm-hmm.
And on the good side, lime also tends to come in the form of calcium carbonate, so lime often is calcium.
Right.
So that'll again, add some calcium to the soil, but it also just neutralize the acid in the soil. But sometimes even then it'll go away, and I've noticed that. And the whole reason I started rethinking this is I took a whole bunch of tomatoes out of the garden, and I've got the end rot problem where I have blight, and I stuck them in my window, and they haven't. They just turned perfectly red, and I've been having delicious tomato sandwiches from them. So
Yeah.
obviously, and even some of the same plants that have end rot don't have end rot on all the tomatoes. So what I said was an error.
Okay.
So a number of the resources I was looking at, I never really sat down and thought about it. I've had end rot and I've not had it, and I've had blight. When blight's really bad, you can lose your whole thing. But usually you just have a bit of blight and you get rid of the branches and it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But what one of the sites says, and this seems to be the observation in my garden when I sit back and think about it, some of the earlier tomatoes can have the problem, the first tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
But the later tomatoes don't, because by the time those later tomatoes have arrived, the root system's more complex, the root system is bigger, and the plant's able to get what it needs because it's literally got more roots in the ground.
Okay.
So your earlier tomatoes are sort of like when the roots, it's just not as elaborate a root system, so the plant hasn't got the calcium it needs, and it's prone to end rot.
Mm-hmm.
So we just take them off and throw them away.
Okay.
Right? Or, if it's red, cut the nasty part away and eat the good part. It's kind of hard to wrap your mind around it because the end rot part looks so gross. It just looks wrong.
Yeah.
You don't want to like stomp on it or it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
You don't want to eat it. You'd eat it if you were starving.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's
a correction.
Yeah, it's a correction, and
Sure.
I'll do that every time I'm aware of it, and if someone makes me aware of something, I'll do that as well. Don't hesitate to, and here I'm going to get the flood of emails, but don't hesitate to call me on anything, because I don't want to be putting anything out there that's not helpful to people.
Yeah.
And my ego doesn't function that way.
No.
It's all about learning.
That's right. No, very good. Awesome.
All right. So, the overwhelming task of deciding where everything should go. So I started doing this, and I didn't used to always do this, but I find that in May, June, when you're putting your garden in, the larger my garden gets, the more overwhelming I find it is to decide what I'm going to plant and where everything should go.
Mm-hmm.
It's like once your garden's large enough, it can be a bit of a logistical nightmare.
Sure.
You want to have a degree of crop rotation. You don't want to have, you shouldn't put the same thing in the same place.
Right.
Especially if there's pests in your garden, because you're literally planting something in the soil where that pest's eggs are.
Mm-hmm.
So you want their young to hatch the next season and have nothing to eat.
Right.
And starve to death.
Yeah. Lovely.
You want them to be abandoned.
Yes.
So, you got to have crop rotation, and you also got to have everything needs a place, and you want to do it mindfully to optimize the yields in your garden and to minimize problems. And so you have to sort of be systematic and thoughtful about it. And that's very hard to do, 6, 7, 8 months after you haven't even thought about your garden for a while.
Mm-hmm.
After the winter's gone, but in the fall and the winter, and you haven't thought about it, and now you're getting back into it. It's better to give all of that some thought now, in
Yeah.
September.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is the time to start. Jot down your thoughts and, come up with a bit of a plan. Maybe put it on your desktop or something. I do this in an Excel file because I'm good with Excel. You can use anything. You can use a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be. You can just draw a
Mm-hmm.
picture. I take a picture of my garden, and then I put that JPEG, I paste it into an Excel file, and then I sort of write where everything is right now. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. There's a number of ways to do that, but the beauty of doing it now, September or October, is you can just mull it over. In March, when you're starting to think about gardening again, you can open that file up and take a look at that diagram you made and start rethinking it. So I'm looking right now at the one I made last year, and I didn't put everything where I thought I should.
Okay.
So it's some things. I would say 60% of what I told myself I should do last September, I did that this year.
Mm-hmm.
But a number of things I didn't follow the advice. I moved some things around. That's fine.
Yeah.
I changed a few things in my garden anyway. I changed this. I reorganized the space a little bit. So, the plans didn't make sense given that I made some changes.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, let's start here. So,
Okay.
a bare minimum is you draw a diagram of your existing garden the way it is right now, or take a picture, and put that picture on your computer or print it out or whatever, and then write down, find some way to indicate where everything is now. Where are the potatoes? Where are the beans? Where are the carrots? Where is this? Where is that? Write down where everything is right now. Right? Now you've got a record of where everything was, because you're going to forget some of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're like me and you're starting to lose your mind. So you write it all down, and then also write down any issues or problems that you noticed this year. Did you have blight with your tomatoes? Was there a really big problem with slugs or some sort of pest like cabbage maggots or that sort of thing? Where were the problems? Did something not grow well in a particular place?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think one of your garden beds or certain areas need more mulch or more compost or more manure?
Right.
Whatever. Which beds were highly productive? Which beds weren't very productive? The plants were,
Mm-hmm.
did you have beds where the plants were kind of weak and pathetic looking? Like the example I gave of those two different beds where I planted zucchini, right?
Yeah.
One of them had these big, beautiful zucchini, and they're still, just this heat wave we've had, everything's growing like crazy right now. I made just strawberry jam today. I think I even put a picture up on Facebook of it.
Yeah.
And I've got huge zucchini coming out. Anyway, I got one garden with huge zucchini, so that soil's good. I got another garden with these sort of half-size stunted zucchini, same variety.
Right.
So I know that bed needs an inch of, manure added to the top.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of, it just needs a boost.
Yeah.
I generally put about an inch of manure over everything.
Yeah.
I like to, but some years I don't, or sometimes I get lazy, or I have a plan of what I want to do, and I do what I'm able to get around to, and that's why it's good to have a plan. And if I don't get around to it, I don't beat myself up. Like so, let's say next year that bed with the lousy zucchini, I don't actually. I plan to put my manure on the garden this fall, but let's say I just get busy and things happen and I don't get around to it, and maybe I'm too busy next spring. I know that bed's weak. It's got lousy soil. So I would plant a legume there, right? I'd plant beans or something like that, because that doesn't need a lot of nitrogen. Plant something that grows in poor soil, doesn't really care so much. Because I've got that record, I've written it down. Things didn't grow well there, so I need to put something that doesn't require great soil, or it might even improve the soil,
Right.
like a legume. Or if you noticed one of your soils was particularly hard, you might want to till that up. If it had gotten compacted, I don't tend to till,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes you notice something it seems a little off, and you want to mix some compost in with it to lighten it up. I never use I don't think I've ever talked about it on the show. I never use peat moss. I don't know why on earth that is something people like rush out in droves to buy.
Right.
People, peat moss is a soil additive that you use if you're going to till a garden. You go into a bog that, and you pull them, you mine the moss out of that bog. It really should be left in the bog.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, moss is highly acidic. I mean, if you study the ecology of bogs and mosses, it's just acid.
Mm-hmm.
So you put this acidic moss into your garden, and then you have to till it in because, it needs to be mixed in with actual soil.
Right.
And then once you've tilled it in, your soil's acidic, so then you got to mix in some lime. And that just seems like a ridiculous process when you
Mm-hmm.
could just put like an inch of compost on top and just walk away. Um,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
I don't use any peat moss in my garden. You were here a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
Everything looks good.
It does.
Yeah. So, don't buy the peat. I don't want to put the peat moss business out of peat moss people out of business. But if you're a frugal gardener, you don't need it. Your time would be so much better spent putting a compost or a manure. I use horse manure because it's free. But you can get better and more exotic manures for sure.
Yeah.
And if you're getting something really strong like a chicken manure, and put it on in the fall, it's going to break down. Over the winter, it'll be ready to rock.
Right.
If you have access to something like that, like a chicken manure is a great
Mm-hmm.
manure. It's you can just tell by the smell. You can stand and have a conversation next to a pile of horse manure.
Yeah.
But if you were standing next to a pile of chicken manure, oh my God, you'd want to get out of there.
Greg knows what the nasty smells
I
like.
know my manures.
Yeah.
Anyway, so bare minimum, you draw a diagram, write down where everything is, write down your issues and problems, and maybe some things to do. And at least you've got that record. And then,
Mm-hmm.
if you're done, if you don't want to do this anymore, and you just put that somewhere, file it away, and open it up next April when you start, or March or May, whenever you are getting around to doing your gardening again. Better still, once you've done that first step, give some thought to where everything should go next year and write that all down, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so much better to do it now that your memory's fresh, right? A lot of this
Right.
stuff, I'm keenly aware of everything that's happening right now because it's all in my mind. So you think of companion planting, you think of, if you've had beds, I got a certain area in my garden, I'm really, really unhappy with the way everything worked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to amend the soil, I'm going to add some manure to it, but I'm still not very confident about that particular soil. So I'm going to plant all my beans in that lousy soil.
Yeah.
Because I know the beans will be fine in there,
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the little amendment I'm going to add to it. And then because beans don't take much away, next year that soil will be ready to be good soil.
Right.
Just like where I planted my beans, my bush beans this year, that stretch of garden last year, it didn't do very well. I planted, what on earth did I plant there? I planted some greens and I planted some corn. It just didn't come in well at all.
Right.
I wasn't really happy with it. And I added about an inch of manure, and I planted beans there, and they did great. So next year, I'm sure it'll be great. I can grow anything I want there.
Mm-hmm.
You think of nitrogen-fixing legumes, you think of where the potatoes should go, where the tomatoes should go. Because remember, potatoes and tomatoes, remember that nightshade family?
Yeah.
They're related, so you can't, any garden bed, it should only have one or the other of those two things every 3 years, ideally, right? If you want to minimize the chance of blight and all that sort of stuff, you try to rotate in and out of that bed. So if you had 6 beds, would sort of be ideal, because that way you could have one bed devoted to potatoes and one bed devoted to tomatoes, and they'd be rotating around, and every 3-4 years you'd have, you could move those things around.
Mm-hmm.
That's the math of it. You can bend these rules. This is just an ideal situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way I tend to do it is, let's say I've got, just for instance, 6 beds that are all lined up in a row. So, like, let's say I got carrots in the first one and parsnips in the next one, and potatoes in the next one, and beans in the next one. Well, next year everything would just go up one, right? So the carrots would go where the parsnips are, and the parsnips would go where the next thing, right? And I just shift everything up one,
Yeah.
right? Just like on a rotating schedule sort of thing.
Right. Right.
And that's pretty much how I do it, with a few minor variations, just because maybe one of the spots hasn't got enough sun, or some unique problem was somewhere. But generally speaking, the general schedule I try to stick to is just moving everything over one every year,
Okay.
and it sort of seems to work itself out. And if that schedule is putting the potatoes where the tomatoes were last year, well, I don't do that. I stick them somewhere else. I just adjust it a little bit. But that's the simplest way to do it. And you do that now, and then next year you're going to want to plant things that you didn't plant this year.
Right.
Right? Like this year, I tried a new planting something called ground cherries, and I've never planted them before in my life, and they came in great. I mean, I literally put the seeds in the ground and went away on vacation for a week, and when I came back, they were up, and I didn't even remember what they were.
Right.
I just realized they're ground cherries about 3 weeks ago. Didn't know. They're all growing in a row, so I knew there was something. They weren't a weed. They get these really neat, almost like Japanese lantern sort of, or Chinese lantern. Was it Chinese lantern or Japanese lantern? The paper lantern.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a berry that grows in a little paper package like that, and they're supposed to be very good tasting. I've never eaten them. They grew really well, and they were completely pest-free. So if they taste good, I'm going to plant a whole bed of them. I only planted like a row of them this year as like an experiment.
Oh yeah.
But I'm going to plant a lot of them. If they taste good, I'm going to plant a whole bed. Why not? Because they're so pest-free, right?
Cool.
And it's an ideal, if they are pest-free, it's a good thing to plant in a bed that had a pest problem. Because the pests aren't going to eat that thing,
Yeah.
right? They're all going to, like let's say they're in the soil, they're going to come out and they're going to be like, "What's this stuff? Let's fly out of here," hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. If you need a second opinion on how they taste, let me know.
For sure.
Yeah.
I just hope they ripen before the cold comes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see. I tried to eat one today and it was horrible. So it was, but you could just tell it wasn't ripe. It just had an unripe taste.
Yeah. Just didn't seem right.
It was very green on the inside. I think they're supposed to be a yellow. I doubt they're a green color.
Yeah.
Anyway, it just had that really strong, chlorophyll green sort of taste. Not ready.
Yeah.
Just not ready. And also, when you're thinking of all the things you want to do for next year, I mean, think of what you can do now. I mean, it's so much easier to do a lot of your next year garden stuff this fall.
Right.
Right? There's no mosquitoes. It's nice and cool. It's not, the fall is such a favorable time of year to be outside and in your garden.
Yeah.
You've got horse flies or anything if you've got any project, I want to build along the north side of my garden a whole bunch of terraced, sort of like modular hothouses.
Oh yeah.
It's like I discussed in the episode on cold frames.
Yeah.
So these would be kind of like cold frames, but they're cold frames I can dismantle and take the tops off, and so they're more like the hothouses for getting vegetables started.
Yeah.
Once they're started, I can plant them early, and they'll be nice and warm in there. And then once they're started and it's warm outside, I just take the roof off, and then it waters itself, and I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that in the fall. Why would I do that next year? Right?
Yeah.
Then
Exactly.
it'll be all ready to go. Right? I don't have to worry about it in the spring. It's just ready to go. Ready to go.
Yeah.
Also, this time of year, like a lot of stuff's cheap at the garden centers.
Yeah. They're trying to get rid of the last
it's a great
stuff.
time you should be thinking about it all now. Also, by the way, it's a great time to plant trees. If you can get trees or berry bushes or shrubs or whatever at a garden center, because they're trying to get rid of everything right now, it's a great time to plant. When the leaves start dropping off of trees, their roots become active. The leaves are dropping off a tree. It's basically taking all the energy out of its greenery and transferring it to its root system. So the tree's just itching to be taken out of that pot and put into some real soil.
Huh.
So we often think about planting trees in the spring, but fall is a great time, and there's usually a good rain in the fall too, right? October.
Yeah.
It's the rainy season. So yeah, if you've got ideas about planting fruit bushes or apple trees or whatever, and you can find them at, these sort of crummy looking ones at a garden center, plant them. And it's so much better to do that. I mean, you're going to be really disappointed if you plant a fruit tree in May. It's not going to do anything in your garden that year. It's just going to try to survive, right? So it's much better to like get it established in the fall, and then it'll go dormant in the winter, and then it's going to be ready to rock in the spring.
Yeah.
Right? You might even get a harvest out of it that spring. Whereas if you plant it in the spring, you're not going to get anything that season. You're just not.
Yeah.
It's very unlikely unless you've got the most incredible soil in the world, or so on. So good time to plant things now. So think about what you can do now, and whatever you can do, this is a good time of year to do it. So that's the main thing I wanted to get across today. The fall is, it's not the time of year to sort of, I mean, I'm a bit ahead of the game here. We're just barely into September, and most people, if they're like me, they're harvesting like crazy, and they're trying to figure out what to do with all this stuff.
Right.
But in addition to that, if you're not overwhelmed by your harvesting, and bearing in mind that I'm going to be in my garden doing stuff almost right up until Christmas.
Yeah.
I'm more active in the fall than I think I'm in the spring. I don't like to do any really work in there in the summer. I'm just managing pests. I'm pruning and thinning and doing that sort of stuff. But in May and June, the flies are so bad in my garden. I can just barely keep up with what needs to be. I just run in there and I run out of there. It's so bad. So I try to get everything done this time of year, but I've noticed over the years that it's just actually more pleasurable to be out doing that stuff in the fall. The air is fresh.
Oh yeah, I love the fall.
It's just a good time to work.
Yeah.
So I mean, fall isn't the time to. Fall is really the time to start next year's garden. It's don't start. And I noticed I watch people in my neighborhood, and everybody starts thinking about the next year's garden next year. Everybody starts thinking in May. And you can make that whole process so much more easy on yourself if you start thinking about next year's garden this fall.
Yeah.
Just get an idea of what you'd like to do, and chip away at a few things, and you'll be so much more ahead of the game when May rolls around next year.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, it's definitely good advice, and we got a few more episodes coming up in the coming weeks, I guess. And this is a good one. I look forward to seeing what the next ones are about. So if you were listening and you want to follow the show notes, just go to maritimegardening.com/020. You can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, most major podcast networks, and you can listen right on the website. If you want to share our Facebook fan page, that would be great. Or forward some of our emails along to somebody that you know. Absolutely fantastic. We are having a great time here, getting close to wrapping up season 1, and we thank you for listening for sure. Any comments or questions, by all means, post those up on Facebook or directly on our website, which is also basically a blog. And Greg, awesome. And thanks for taking the time, and thank you all. Yeah, thank you all for listening. So we will be talking next week.
Yep.
All right, take care.